Okay, Jeremy here, Jeeps Unlimited, 303-666-9020. Partsbreakers.com is our website, and I am doing this video specifically for a customer, but definitely give us a call. Even if this one does end up selling, we have other options for the 97-02, which this is what this is, 6-cylinder. These are really hard to get. They're the hardest ones to get, actually. But anyway, so this would be a grade A frame. It's got no rot on it whatsoever. There's a little bit of oxidation, as you can see in here, and I'll get up close and personal here in just a second. And then the only thing that I've come across as we were pulling it that broke, as far as one thing, is that rear bolt right there, which had a hitch on it, and that was the bolt that pulled from that. So normally those are body mount bushing bolts. Actually, no, I take that back. That's not the body mount bushing bolt. That goes up here. So yeah, this is for a hitch. So, and there's plenty of thread left on there if you want to use a little heat. That's what they should have done in the first place when my guys were pulling it apart. But nonetheless, I just had them cut off the rest of it and leave as much there just to extract if you are going to be using a hitch or something on it, or the bumper. I guess the bumper does mount there too. So but everything else is super clean. And the Jeep was unwrecked. We bought it with a suspected blown head gasket, and actually that might not even be the case, because we noticed the radiator is cracked, so we might end up with a good motor on that guy too. We'll see. We'll do a compression and stuff on that guy. But anyway, just want to go over this guy with you. This video will be about 10 minutes long, so if there's something in specifically that you're looking at that yours is rotted out on, or want to see a certain area, if I don't get it, just let me know. But I'll try to do this with a fine-tooth comb. These areas here, and I want to get up close here to show you that this is just oxidized metal. There's no scaling. There's no rot, obviously, but the scaling isn't even happening. It would happen, especially if you'd introduce salt to this. And I would definitely treat this with a some sort of rust neutralizer or Pour 15, something to protect this frame. You can use simple products. Rust-Oleum makes several, to basically get rid of the oxidation. It has an acid etching quality to them, and then also protecting as well. Some people blast them, sandblast them. I don't think they're necessary on a lot of our frames, but just depends on, I guess, the budget overall, and also what you have near you. That service is awesome. We used to have one close to our old yard. It was great. Unfortunately, over here, they've almost all gone under, so it's hard for us to get that stuff done anymore. And then I want to show you too, or tell you, I guess, showing you is a little hard because it doesn't do it the way we like it to. We bought a really cool scope that goes into these frames so we can see the inside of them. But unfortunately, it just mirrors our phones, doesn't record. So what I'm trying to say. So, but these have been scoped, and as well as all of our frames. And we do measure them just to make sure, even though they do come off of unwrecked Jeeps. It's always just one of those things. You never know. I mean, this thing is, see, this was a 90, I think it was a 98. So, I mean, you're talking, 30 plus years old. It's, you never know what's been done to that Jeep, but anyway, so yeah, a lot of blabbing, not a lot of, and that's good. We kind of want an uneventful video. Just like when I take my road trips, we want uneventful road trips. I just took one, got back from Texas, and unfortunately I had an eventful one with a blowout in the middle of the night on a trailer. That one over there, actually. And then if that wasn't worse, heading over Monarch Pass, which is one of our steeper passes, and then blew the radiator on that truck as well. So anyway, I like uneventful things as far as this stuff goes, and that's really what we're going for. Now, these are really clean, and you're always going to have a little oxidized here, sometimes even scale buildup, but these are really nice. There's no scale buildup, and all the holes, all the threads were good, both sides, nothing broken off there. So super impressed with that. And then this area, and this frame obviously is upside down right now, but this area is the common area on East Coast frames, Midwest frames, that I see rust out. And I think it's just because they didn't do a lot of clean out holes here, and the ones they did do are kind of pocketed in. And so they'll pack full of sand, dirt, everything you can think of. And then if you have, especially if you have salt in the area, we don't do salt out here, so kind of nice. But they love to rust there. And that's usually where you can poke a hole through a frame. When I go out and see people's Jeeps sometimes, especially when they say they're rust free, those are always the worst ones. And that's usually the area that it becomes a weakness. I'm sore from that sitting on my butt for so long. And these frames, obviously I'm doing this one-handed, so they're not super heavy. They're heavy enough. So top of the coil spring buckets, same thing, a little oxidized metal, but nothing material wise losing. Obviously you've seen the bottom of them. And then your top, these are usually annihilated on East Coast, and typically those are the bolts you're extracting. And actually these all came out, which is awesome. And then of course you got your holes here. Let's see if I can pull this one out. I'm gonna have to, I just like to show these because I'll have to get a pry bar, I think, to pull that maybe. There we go. Okay. Because it is an area that they trap moisture. And as you can see, these are all perfectly round like they should be. Okay, this one's got a little bit of a dimple. See a little bit there. I think this side did it too. So, and I'm not exactly sure why they have that like that on those, but I've seen it before, but just not very often. No big deal. You can re-weld if you want it. I don't think it's necessary. The bushing hole, it's just you can see fits in there perfectly. And so, and then of course your coil spring buckets, engine mounts, all this. And my guess is they probably had a leak, brake fluid or something. There is a brake line that runs over that crossbar. The reason I say that is because there's absolutely no paint on that whatsoever. And of course that's oxidized as well, but it's smooth. And there's actually a little bit of paint underneath. The other thing we weren't able to do, matter of fact, there's actually, that may not be oxidized at all. There's black paint under all that. So this is what happens when I had one of my guys wash this frame. He was supposed to wash it entirely, but I don't think he got this side clearly because, yeah, so that's actually better than I thought. I just like when they're nice and shiny. And this one's not bad by no means, but it's, I have some 03 to 06 frames right now, which will work on a 9702, but you will need to buy a conversion kit, which run about $450, because there are a couple differences on them. And I'll go over those real quickly. The belly pan, the crossmember belly pan, which is your transmission crossmember, as some call them. The steering gearbox, 03 to 06, and the intermediate shaft, lower intermediate shaft, are different, but everything else is the same, and the tubs will bolt on the same. And for whatever reason, I think it's 3, maybe it's only 2, but the ones I have right now are just like, they look like they were pressed right off the assembly line. They're absolutely, there's not a, like, literally not, I don't think there's any paint missing on them. They look absolutely gorgeous. But for a 9702 frame, this is a good quality. This is a nice, clean frame. This is very typical for what they look like. Or even some of the ones we've had, and you know, the paint's not, it's like completely gone, but still solid, but you know, not as, so anyway, and usually the coil spring buckets is another area that, since you can't see underneath these, when you're looking at a Jeep, those are the areas that I like to look at. And you can see these ones are, obviously these aren't washed either, but this is all nice and smooth. No rough edges, no, like I said, not losing any metal material on any of those. And then here again, we're looking at, and you can even see down in here barely, but there's this is what we were looking at when we scoped these. You can see black, kind of where I rubbed the dirt off there. And that's all the way around in here. And on the other side too, so. Okay, but just because it's clean now, and I emphasize this, 99% of all of our frames end up in the Midwest, East Coast. You can literally take a clean frame, do nothing to it, put it out there, and one bad winter of lots of salt exposure, you can toast a frame pretty quickly. So get these things, you know, the areas that yours rusted out in, that's the areas that I would highly emphasize spending most of the time on, whether you clean them up more or putting a product on it, something to prevent it from happening. And then just obviously routine maintenance on a Wrangler will go a long ways. You know, the storms come in, they come out, they go out, and you're out there cleaning the thing, or trying not to use it as much, you know, in the winter. Obviously, you don't want to do that with a Jeep. That's what they're there for. But when you do a restoration like this with what's involved with these, and especially with the kind of money these are bringing these days, it's well worth either trying to prevent it as best you can by either not using it or by using as much of some of the products out there. And every day I look, there's a new product. So definitely do your research on that. The one I'm most common that I hear most people using on the Midwest, East Coast is going to be the Pour 15 product. And I really know nothing more about it. I've never used it before. I've used here because we don't have salt. We usually try to find something that has a rust neutralizer in it. We prime them with an etching paint and wire wheel where we need to. Use the primer and then use that Rust-Oleum or some other kind of product line. And it comes out real good. Matter of fact, I'll show you a set of axles that we just did. And these axles are about 15 years older than that frame is. So you can see this one was not sandblasted. This is a 44, kind of a rare 44 out of a Cherokee, but and that's what they really should look like. And this is the matching axle to the front. So we're reassembling. We built these, and they're being shipped hopefully next week. But that's what, you know, a primer, and you can see there's the primer we use, the Rust-Oleum, that's the brand, and then the black paint that goes over top of it. And I think he did a little wire wheeling on those, but not much. You can kind of see how smooth. Anyway, that's it. Okay, again, I told you that would be about 10 minutes, so 3 minutes over that. I'll get some photos of it as well. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or didn't get to an area because I was yapping about something that you want to see close-ups, then let me know. These are the factory holes that you will only find on the early Wranglers. So if you do decide to go with an 03 to 06 frame, they redesigned these, and they're actually a little bit easier to get, and they're a little bit better made. So it's not the end of the world. The steps look exactly the same on them when they're mounted. They just mount differently. So, and we can get you details on that if you're interested. All right. Or you can just, if you end up with this frame and you have that style step, which is the flat ones, those are the nutserts they did out of the factory, then you're good to go. Just reuse them, bolt them on, and that's it. Okay. 303-666-9020, partsbriggers.com. I'm going to say one more thing. My East Coast run is coming up. Originally, we were going to try to peel out of here middle of February, but it's just going to be too tight with my dad's coming into town end of the month. So I'm going to go right after he gets here, stays a couple days. So looking around March 5th to pull out of here. That's important for a few reasons. One, this is the trailer I bring out with me, and if you look at my other loads we've done, we fill it to the tilt. It's the only way we can make it economically to do these runs. And there definitely some space left on it, but we have filled quite a bit of space as well. So have another couple tubs spots, and then I'd say 5 or 6 frame spots left. Those are a little bit easier to squeeze in places than tubs are, obviously. And then, and that's important because I won't be making another run until next fall. So I try to squeeze as much as I can in It's fun to do these. It also is very consuming, and it does take our sales down slightly because I'm not here doing the phones and doing everything else. I try to do them from the road, but I can only do so much from the road. So if you're looking for a frame or a tub or axles or anything heavy that would normally require freight, get a hold of me. Our flat, we have a flat rate fee that we do. It's way cheaper than freight typically is. And plus you get the white glove service to your door, as long as I can get that trailer in there. Otherwise I'll meet you somewhere. And I'm going to be going, so Colorado, you can look at my path, for sure Colorado to basically Philadelphia area, so Pennsylvania, and then probably Maryland, Virginia, maybe New York. Again, I mean, I'm sure I'll be in New York at some point, but I don't know if I'll be doing Long Island, New York again. We'll see. There's a customer that I usually do sell out there, so there's a chance for that. Just kind of an ordeal trying to get through the city. And then maybe even upstate, the Northeast, New Hampshire, those areas. That's a possibility too. It just depends on what we sell. There might be a little slightly higher freight fees if we don't get a lot up there, especially with fuel climbing again. But we'll try to make it as fair as possible for everybody. And yeah, get a hold of us. And my wife or I will probably be willing to answer the phone. Again, 303-666-9020. Thanks a lot and have a great night.